What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're tackling a project I've long wanted to do but been afraid to do. Now, I was able to make this turn out pretty well, and I think you guys, if you follow these directions, will find that you can do it too. I'm not very good at really anything, and this came out pretty well. So, given that, this is a project that I think anyone can tackle, and that is respraying your Miata to fix faded paint. Now, I'm not going to be respraying the whole car. I'm only going to be focusing on this rear quarter panel, but as you can see here, mine was pretty faded. I got all of my parts, except for the tape and the 5000 grit, which I got separately, from a company called Automotive Touchup. Now, the stuff I used here was some primer, some paint, some clear coat, and then a few other miscellaneous odds and ends that helped me with the project, like this little spray nozzle holder, some more tape, and some more sandpaper, along with some polishes. All of this, everything included, cost me about $60 or $70, which is really rather inexpensive. So I started off by washing the area, the rear quarter panel, to make sure I got all the potential contaminants and grit off. So I just gave it a quick wash with some soap and water. Now, after drying the car off, I started the process of taping off all the things I don't want painted. So the gas cap, or the area between it, the antenna, my soft top, and then I decided where I would stop painting. And I picked these body lines, and then obviously I wanted to protect my wheel, and then down here to the bumper, I don't want to paint that. Now, there is a sort of chip protection here, which I used as a kind of handy place to stop painting. You could just tape off a little bit above it using some folded paper to make a more soft paint line, but I just used the hard sort of chip protection. I also replaced my nice rim with my spare, just to make sure if I got any overspray, it would get on the spare, not on my brand new rim. I then went ahead and used some trash bags and newspaper and masking tape to just go ahead and tape off anything I don't want overspray on. As you can see here, you want to make sure to get your lines as sharp as possible in order to ensure that your finished product looks the best.
Fai quello che vuoi, mamma. Either way is fine.
Once we have the car washed and taped off, we can start sanding down the old paint. I started off with 180 grit and used a sponge in order to prevent any sort of hot spots in the paint. And then you just start sanding. Now, it's a very good idea to wear a respirator. You don't want any of this dust getting in your lungs. That would really not be ideal. So wear a respirator. Work outside if you can. Obviously, you'll probably get better results working inside, but since I don't have a spray booth, I decided to work outside to limit the amount of fumes and dust I would get in my lungs. So work through your 180 grit, go ahead and blast it off with an air compressor, or you could also just use water, and then move up to a 320 grit. You're just going to work your way through all the various grits, getting it as even as possible. Even is key. Okay, make sure that your surface is perfectly even. Once you have that, you can use this prep solvent. It's really just alcohol that comes with the Automotive Touch-Up kit, and then you can wipe down the entire body panel. Before moving on to the next step, give one final check to make sure that you're totally even. It may not look even, but if it feels even, you will be okay. If it's uneven, it'll come out bad. Once you have that checked, you can go ahead and start using the primer. You have to shake the bottle, at least for this brand, for about a minute before spraying it on. Once your minute is up, you can begin spraying. I use this sort of grip handle, which came with my kit, or I bought it with the kit, which gives you a little bit more comfortable position when you're spraying. You then want to start away from the car and sort of work your way up and down the panel side to side. Now again, doing this outside is probably not the best for your final product, but it does prevent you from getting overspray all over your garage, and I still got a very good final product even with doing this outdoors. You definitely want to make sure the wind is sort of blowing away from your car or anything that may be oversprayed. Mine was working. My wind was blowing in the right direction. Wait 5 minutes between coats and put on a second coat of primer. After your second coat of primer, you can then go ahead and make sure that, again, the primer is on there evenly by wet sanding it with 600 grit wet or dry sandpaper, and you want to get this nice and wet. Now that our primer is sanded down and wiped down, you can then go ahead and start spraying on your base coat. Make sure you get the right paint code number. Mine was 18G for my silver. You can look at inside your door jamb to find that paint code. You can then start spraying the base coat, again in even light coats, starting away from the paint and then working all the way across the panel. Obviously, you may need to sort of adjust your position depending on what the panel looks like, but try to keep it as even as possible. Don't go back over certain areas until you move on to another coat. You want to try to make this as even as possible and the coats as light as possible. Automotive Touchup recommends 2 coats of base coat, which is what I did. I made sure to have a nice, even coating. Again, if you go nice and light coats, you'll get a better product than doing slower, heavy coats. So just make sure you check that your paint is nice and even, and then you can go ahead and move on to the clear coat, which is just the same process. Start away from the car, move your way across the car until you get the entire panel nice and covered in clear coat. Again, nice light coats are key here. You're going to want to do 2 or 3 coats of the clear coat, with the final one being a slightly heavier one. You do need 10 minutes between coats for the clear coat, whereas it's 5 minutes between coats for the primer and base color. Now, once you let your gloss clear coat dry for the specified amount of time, you can then go ahead and start removing all of your tape and newspaper and paper bags, whatever you used to block off the paint. Again, you want to make sure that the paint has cured for the right amount of time. I believe Automotive Touchup recommends a full 24 hours. I may be wrong on that, but you do want to wait a little bit before removing all of your taping. Now at this point our paint has cured, at least dried, and we want to make sure to remove all of the orange peel effect. So you're going to go ahead and spray down your body panel with some soapy water, and then with some 5000 grit wet or dry sandpaper. And this one that I bought here has a sort of soft foam backing which prevents hot spots. You're then going to go ahead and wipe down or sand down your entire panel in order to remove that sort of orange peel phenomenon, at least as best as you can. So work your way across the whole panel, making sure to get it as nice and even as possible. Rinse off all of the soapy water and inspect your work. It should feel nice and smooth, although it will be a little bit more dull. Okay, don't worry about that. We're going to go ahead and bring the shine right back out once we go ahead and polish and compound the paint here. Make sure to pay particular attention to these areas, like near where the soft top meets the body and next to the various body panels. Make sure you get as even as possible. Once we have that all wet sanded down, we can then go ahead and use this rubbing compound You can apply this with a machine or just by hand. I used it by hand and it came out perfectly fine. Just get some on the body there and then work it in up and down in circular motions until you get it evenly applied across the whole panel that you painted. You're definitely going to need a little bit of elbow grease here, but it will come out looking really good. Go ahead and wipe it down with a clean rag or clean microfiber towel. And then once you are happy with your compound, and you'll see here the shine is starting to come out, starting to get a little bit closer, you can then go ahead and move on to the hand glaze, as Automotive Touchup calls it, which is just a finer cutting compound. And then you can repeat the process with the glaze. One word of caution, make sure you do not wax your car for at least a month after doing the painting. The paint needs to fully cure before you can actually go ahead and wax the paint. Now, once you've got your paint nicely polished and compounded, you can wipe off all of the excess and it's time to check out your work. And we are all done. Now, I am very happy with how it's turned out. It's obviously not a perfect professional job, but for $70, it fixed up my paint. I think it looks great, and I think you can do it as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.